So this is assignment one, fitness training and programming. It's out on the 15th of November and it's due back in on the 29th of November. It's a quite straightforward assignment, so you should be able to think about targeting the criteria first time round without requiring an upgrade, but that means you need to put the attention to detail into it. The scenario sets a scene and says that Bath College are looking for students to access gym sessions, and they want you to provide them an informative PowerPoint that educates them on different methods of training. So what you have to do is produce a PowerPoint presentation which describes and explains, using appropriate examples, one method of training for each of the 6 components of fitness. And the 6 components are listed here. So just remember, describe is the pass, merit is the explain. So you would need to describe and explain a method of training for aerobic endurance, one for muscular endurance, one for strength, one for flexibility, one for speed, and one for power. Now, this note bit at the bottom is quite important. So your PowerPoint presentation must contain examples for each method of training. With your images, you should not use with images, sorry, and also you should not use the same method of training more than once. So what I mean by that is you can't use interval for speed and then use it for aerobic endurance. You can only use one method of training for one component. And obviously the method of training needs to relate to that component. So I'm just going to show you an example of what I've done. So here's my assignment, and I've done aerobic endurance in this case. So I've defined what aerobic endurance is, so I've given a definition of what it is, and then I've gone, well, what's a method of training for aerobic endurance? And in this case, I've talked about continuous. Okay, and then I've described and explained what continuous training is. I've then provided detailed description and explanation on the advantages of continuous training and the disadvantages of continuous training. Finally, I've provided specific examples of continuous training. I've talked about how you can do it in for instance, long distance running outside, but I've also talked about gym-based stuff. So there are a number of different ways in which an athlete can undertake continuous training. They can go on a long distance run. This would mean that the athlete would need to work at about 60 to 80% of their maximum heart rate for 20 minutes or longer, beginning to develop their aerobic endurance. Alternatively, the athlete could choose to go on a long distance bike ride for 20 kilometers plus, or complete 20 lengths in a swimming pool. Now this is where we're saying 20, we're giving them the minimum. So you must work for roughly 20 minutes to be able to access or start to develop your aerobic endurance. And when it's continuous, it's non-stop, so no breaks. And then what I've done here is I've provided an example. So set the treadmill on 13 kilometers per hour and complete 30 minutes of running without stopping. After a few weeks, I should say weeks, not week, you may wish to increase the speed and time to push your body to a new limit. You need to then apply that same principle to the other one. So muscular endurance, the definition of muscular endurance, then you've got to think about what type of training are you going to associate to muscular endurance. So it might be circuit training. You need to describe and explain circuit training in as much detail as you possibly can. If you don't put that detail, then you're not going to hit that criteria. You then need to describe and explain the advantages of circuit training if you're going to use that, and the disadvantages of circuit training. Finally, you need to give me specific examples of exercises that you would complete in circuit training. You might want to consider the times that you're working for, the reps, the sets, whatever it is, you need to give me those specific examples. And with this muscular endurance, and if you've chosen circuit training, for instance, then you could put a range of different exercises or images of the exercises as opposed to just one, which I did on the first slide, and tell me the sets and reps or time that they're working for. You may want to consider the rest time between each exercise as well to just re-emphasize what muscular endurance is. So do the same for strength, same for flexibility, same for speed, same for power. We have covered this in each week leading up to this assignment, so you should be in a good place, but do the research. Make sure it's your own work. Please don't copy off the internet. The the system picks it up and knows whether you've copy and pasted. So please make sure that you don't do that.